everyone. This is Nick with Tenacity.ai with my co-host Jason. We are going to continue our FinOps series and this time dive into how to implement a crawl, walk, run approach to FinOps and what that means when folks talk about a maturity model in that analog. So Jason, I guess, for an introduction, why don't we talk a little bit about what that analog means? What does it mean to be crawling, to be walking, to be running when you're looking at maturing your internal operations or internal processes?
Yeah, I think with most processes analogies that define themselves or align themselves with crawl, walk, run, it's just about understanding where the organization is today so that we can take the FinOps phases, the entire operating model, and set realistic, smart goals based on where we are as an organization. So that to me is just where do you fit? What do you have today? And then making realistic goals from there. So to me, it's more about assessing so that you can make sure that your goals are aligned with realistic objectives for the future.
Yeah.
And so, with crawl, in your opinion, like what are some of the characteristics of an organization that's just beginning their FinOps journey?
Yeah, I like to break things down piece by piece. So let me answer that with, say, mapping data to the business, right? So mapping your environment out to the business. That's one that's easy for me to conceive of. So when I think about, I have an infrastructure, maybe I'm early in the journey of moving my infrastructure or migration or transformation, or maybe I'm like well seated in the cloud and I'm, at modest or large scale. I'm going to be thinking about how I allocate my environment or how I map my environment to the business in terms of, in a couple of terms, a couple of levers I need to pull. One is kind of how much of my environment's been allocated. And so in a crawl, we're probably very early in this journey. We're probably working our way through the first kind of half of the journey, right? Of mapping, because there's probably some subset of the environment that's hard to map, and there's some subset that's kind of low hanging fruit. So I'm going to tackle that low hanging fruit. I'm going to try and get half or more of the environment mapped. But there's a second lever of this that I think a lot of people don't think about, which is you don't have to get your mappings perfect. When you're in crawl, you're still reallocating things. You might allocate something, say, to environment. You might say, okay, I want to get all my production environment stuff identified, and I want to get all my dev stuff identified, and I have some shared stuff and some other stuff that I need to identify. But then you may come back in that same crawl phase and you may go, okay, now I need to mature my allocation, and I need to take my production, I need to divide it up amongst my 3 divisions or 4 revenue lines or whatever. One organization I worked in, we had 4 products and 11 lines of revenue. So we had to, or 4 product groups and 11 actual products, right? So, thinking in terms of, all right, now I'm going to take my production, I'm going to divide it up and slice it up that way. And then I may further slice up my dev by the engineering team, or I may further slice it up by who actually deploys it. And I can keep iterating through that in the crawl phase. Still maybe not reaching yet, walk or run, because I'm still thinking in terms of how do I reallocate? How do I generate my reports? How do my stakeholders want to view this? So I'm very much in that conceptual phase in crawl.
I agree with that. I think it's where you're starting. Can
I talk about the worst thing you can do?
Yeah.
Which Jason's going to totally agree with me on this. Over solving this problem initially, which is a natural tendency of many personalities in IT. I'm guilty of that at times too. The need to kind of build a perfect tagging and allocation strategy and then implement it, you don't need to do that. What you need to do is get some kind of early allocation done. You're going to reallocate. It's totally okay. Just get something out there so you can start thinking about how you're going to report and how you're going to build context, and start giving your stakeholders a little sneak peek into the view so they can give you feedback.
One uniform tag that says unallocated is better than a bunch of different.
Better than waiting to solve the problem until you have the last 5% covered.
Correct.
Like, who cares?
Yeah, exactly. Right. Show that you can actually uniformly tag something. I can't tell you how many times we deal with this all the time, right? Where, a customer goes, well, I want to see what my prod environment, and they have trouble with that, right? And you go into it, and it's because there's 6 different ways in which environment has been tagged in the environment. And there's 9 different ways in which prod has been. PRD, capital P, ROD, lowercase p, ROD. Like, and then sometimes there's a fat finger. So it's not environment, it's K environment, right? Or something like, so it's not even in the E's. Start with just being able to prove that you can have one uniform tag out there is a really great place to start.
Yes.
I agree with you there. Just doing something. Hell, delete a resource. I used to say, like, if nobody could answer the question on where a resource was, I go, turn it off. They'll let you know right away if it was something important. I mean, seriously, like if it's not identified, it can't be. If it's not, This is really good advice, but warning, sometimes this goes horribly wrong. Yeah, I would say that sometimes is probably the best way to put it. I would say more often it wasn't being used.
Well, that's true, but sometimes it still went horribly wrong. So, but that is a way to find out who owns something.
I just told a customer to do this the other day. It was something that had been up for forever, and it wasn't attached to anything. It was in an account that wasn't doing anything. It was named test. I go, just delete it. Somebody will complain. Yep. I said, but it's definitely, it's just one of those things. So, all right, we got through that. What about walk, Nick? Like, it's kind of easy for me to say if I'm in crawl, right? Because I'm not doing much today, or at least I don't have to me, it's easier to identify when you're in the crawl phase. What about walk?
Here's where I'm going to differ a bit from sort of prevailing opinion on this. And by the way, you can go out to FinOps.org and you can look at the maturity model, and they give you a community-based map of where you should be from a crawl, a walk, and a run perspective. And it's fairly easy to get your arms around. So I'd highly recommend going out and doing that. And I agree with, in general, where the strategy lands. I would say that here's why I don't personally like crawl, walk, run as an analogy, is because I think that different people have different approaches based on how their head works and how they solve problems. And I would tend to look at it from a perspective of I'm walking when I have the reporting out to my stakeholders. I have my business predominantly mapped. Maybe I don't have all the things I want to map or all the context necessarily I want, but I can report pretty well on what's going on. I can forecast with some degree of accuracy. I don't really get hung up in is it 20% or 15% or 12% or 5% or whatever variance that I'm within, but I should be able to get some degree of accuracy within the forecasting. I should know where I'm going. I should have my budget really well understood, be able to report context against that. Those are the sorts of things that to me are in the walk category. You can walk just fine in FinOps for a very long time. Coming out of that crawl phase, that initial getting everything ready to go, really understanding your environment. I don't think you have to get to run quickly. You can spend a lot of time in walk. So that's my personal opinion on it.
Yeah. I would say just in general, I find the differences between walk and run as defined by the community to be, not significantly different in my opinion. Just in how they separate it. But,
yeah.
And I think so so it could be, and I guess this goes back to your point. We tend to think of crawl, walk, run as a succession in steps that need to be achieved, all three. But not everybody runs marathons. Some people are just fine with walking. and
right.
walking marathons, by the way. So, it could be that the goal for an organization is to get to walk and not to get to run. I mean, you don't have to strive to get to run. And so I think, and that's part of the reason why I think neither you or I care for this reference in general, because, or one of the reasons anyway, it's because it makes you believe that you have to achieve 90% allocated, as they give as an example for run, which, by the way, the example for walk is 80%. One could argue that an organization will be fine forever with 80% of their costs allocated in the cloud.
Yeah,
you know what I mean.
And it is a basis of community standards, and I really appreciate the communities come together and done this. I think it's fantastic because it does give you a framework. But this is where I like to break from kind of take the framework and then adopt it to where you are personally, because I have seen organizations that are capable of getting to 100% allocation very, very quickly using some of the strategies that we recommend, which does mean sometimes you have unknowns and you're going to tag them unknown, and you're going to continue to find out who you're going to work those in the end to find out who they are or where they go away. And you can actually get to some really high allocation, but maybe you haven't automated the startup of everything. And so where are you at in this maturity model? I don't know. At that point, I don't really care, because to me, you want to mature what's important to you and your stakeholders. And that might be accountability is the most important thing. It might be rate optimization is the most important thing. It might be understanding your unit economics is the most important thing. It's important for you to mature the thing that's most valuable to you all. I would add this one note on run. The thing I totally agree with, and I think you can celebrate run when you're there, is when you've automated all of these components, from reporting to tagging to startup of all your environments and how they're supposed to be configured, to finding the sort of usage-based issues that you have in your environment, like right sizing, abandoned resources, et cetera, automating the detection of those. I think when you automate across all those spectrums, you're probably in the run phase.
Agreed. And that's a great way to end this episode, I think, Nick.
Done.
Crawl, walk, run.
Done. Easy. Just like that. Where are we on our episode? We're still crawling.
Where are we in our podcast journey? Crawling.
Yeah. Here we are. All right, everyone. So head out to Reddit, to our subreddit /r/cloud cost optimization. Drop any questions you have. We'll answer them on the show. Happy to take any of the feedback that you have for us. Feel free to message us. Feel free to link up with us over on tenacity.ai, download the Cloud Cost Optimization Handbook, or sign up for a demo. We're happy to do a free assessment and show you where you can improve your own FinOps journey and get a head start. Thanks for tuning in, everyone. Have a good day.